we're back again for another save file episode, and today we are building a functional daycare and also a house. It's going to basically work as a small business lot that is also a residential lot as well. Essentially, this works with the businesses and hobbies pack where you can run a small business from your residential lot. So if you watched the previous episode, you saw that I made a daycare owner and her sister, and I had a really cool idea that this daycare owner would run a daycare that was next to her house. So I wanted to actually build that myself because obviously I couldn't really find anything else that anybody else had built. So I actually streamed me building this lot almost in its entirety. So if you want to go back and watch the entire streams back in full, you can. And the same with any of the episodes of me building my Forever Savefile. A lot of them are being done on stream and I'm turning them into YouTube videos. But obviously this is a speed version of that and it's edited, and we're going to go ahead and talk to you about everything. So technically the build was actually across like 2 streams. So I think it actually took about 6 hours in total, if not longer. So I want no judgment, okay? Because I'm a terrible builder and I'm really trying my best for this Forever Savefile, considering it's a bit embarrassing to have your own Forever Savefile and none of the builds are your own. So I'm gonna try. So let's go ahead and jump right in. I want to show you me building it, and whilst I'm building it, I'm going to show you guys some of the references that I had and things that I was using to get inspiration for this build and in general for the save file. First of all, I decided to start off building the house. So for the house, and obviously I'm watching it at the same time whilst we're doing this together as well. So essentially for the house, I knew I wanted a shotgun styled house, which is quite common in New Orleans. So I went through on Google Maps and actually found a bunch of shotgun styled houses that I like the look of. All of them, I wanted them to be a little bit run down because this area of New Orleans is a lower income area. So a lot of the houses are, you know, older. They've got paint peeling off of them. The residents of the houses don't necessarily have the money to put in and upgrade the houses. So you'll find that a lot of them that we are building throughout this world are going to have cracks on them. They're going to have rusted parts of the building, which honestly, I love this. And I know we was talking about it in stream as well. These are my favorite worlds to live in, the ones that are not so perfect. I find that all the worlds in The Sims, especially right now, unless you go through and renovate them or build them yourself, all of the worlds are so perfect looking. And I just wanted something that didn't look so perfect and looked a bit more like real life, because let's be honest, not everywhere in real life turns out looking, you know, pristine and, you know, visually perfect and clean essentially. So I really enjoyed this build, honestly. But again, I went in with reference photos, which I'll put them up on screen right now so you can see what I was working with for the actual main house. So I knew that I needed it to look like slightly run down. I had like a color scheme. I find that a lot of these New Orleans homes, actually these shotgun houses, they have a specific color scheme that they go for. So for this house in particular, I went for green. The reference I don't think actually was green. I think the reference was mostly like a cream color, but I wanted to have different colored houses in New Orleans. So you'll find some of the other builds that we do, whether I download them and renovate them or I build them myself, they're going to be different colors. And I'm going to do that with a lot of the builds actually as we work through it. So when I decided to build this, it's actually autumn, I think, or spring, something like that. And it was spring, sorry. And when you start in spring, all of the plants, they are all dead. So halfway through this build, I had to go and turn it to be summer because it was really difficult to get an idea of what the garden would look like out the front when it is literally spring. Technically, obviously, it's just been winter, so all of the plants are normally dead. So yeah, obviously, I took inspiration from a house I found in New Orleans, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the house needs to look exactly like the inspiration. It was just an idea of what I wanted to look like. I had an idea for this house. Well, I say that. I didn't really have much of an idea going in with the house because I didn't know which one I wanted it to look like. But the daycare, that was what I knew exactly what I was going to build. So you can see I'm moving on to the daycare now, which is obviously to the right. The daycare, we went for like a bright blue theme, and I tried to stick as closely to the reference as possible for this one because I just fell in love with this. When I was going through, I loaded up Google Maps and I was scrolling through Google Maps Street View, trying to find areas in New Orleans that could give me inspiration for the save file. And I found this daycare and I was like, wow, how perfect would this be? And it would give me the opportunity to run a daycare in The Sims, which I really did want to do anyways. So I was like, okay, well, this would be perfect. Let me build this daycare. So I need it to look like reasonably run down, you know, I need it to be a little bit disheveled, but also still look like you would bring your children here. So it was kind of like a delicate balance. And also the sim that is owning this, Eve, she's like the loveliest woman. She just loves children. And the story that we had for her, which we actually made them in the last video if you guys want to check them out, but the story that I had for Eve was basically that she was with a partner before. She had a fiance and they were having fertility issues and she was really struggling to get pregnant, and both her and the partner really wanted children. Well, they're obviously having issues. The engagement is breaking down, or the relationship just in general is breaking down. So the partner, who I've actually already made now, his name is Silas, he ends up moving out and basically he just goes to live with his parents for a little while because they're having issues and they think maybe if we just have a little bit of space together, it'll help itself out. So they wasn't on a break in their relationship. Let me just clear this. They wasn't on a break, but they were, not actively with each other in person. Does that make sense? He'd moved out the house essentially. So when he was out of the house, he then decided to go to a bar one night and he ends up meeting a woman and he ends up sleeping with her. He was actually drinking that night. So whether, personally for me, that makes zero difference. We were talking about this on stream as well. I feel like if you're drinking and you are under the influence of anything, it doesn't alleviate anything from you if you then go and cheat on your partner. I feel like if you would cheat on your partner when you are drunk, then you would probably cheat on your partner when you are sober, or you've thought about it, but you just, you wouldn't necessarily do it. But I very strongly, and this is morally for me, this is very important. I don't know why, but I really do believe that if you cheat on your partner when you're drunk, most likely you wanted to cheat on them when you weren't drunk. You just chose not to because you knew it was the wrong thing to do. But I don't believe that being drunk is any more of an excuse, if that makes sense. So anyways, moving on from that. Anyways, he gets, he starts drinking. He sleeps with the girl. He doesn't actually know who this woman is. She's new to the bar. So he sleeps with her. Then he obviously feels really bad about it. So I actually imagined that he wanted to go and confront Eve about it. So he's gone to go turn up at her house and there's a woman staying with Eve. Well, this woman was actually the woman that he ended up sleeping with at the bar. So turns out Eve has a sister and her name is Brooke, and she was estranged from her sister for a long time. They weren't in contact and he didn't know about said sister because they weren't in contact. It wasn't, anything that she'd mentioned. And said sister obviously has come back in her life because she's pregnant. She's found out she's pregnant with a one-night stand. So obviously the story is then Brooke is pregnant with her sister's fiance's baby. You get where I'm going with this. The drama, the tea, I know. And she is pregnant and she needs help because she hasn't really got anywhere to stay. She walks into the house and she sees pictures all over the walls of Eve and her fiance, and she realizes that the guy she is pregnant with is Eve's fiance. But obviously Brooke, in her own mind, she knows she needs help. She knows she has nowhere to stay. So she doesn't even mention to her sister that guy that she had the one night stand with is actually the guy that's up on her walls. So essentially, Silas, the fiance, sends Eve a text and just says, I can't do this anymore. I want to break up. I want to call it off. Doesn't even come to her in person and just breaks off the engagement essentially over phone call. And that was that. And Eve is now heartbroken. She thinks her fiance left her because she can't have children. And actually, the whole story behind it is that he went and cheated on her, couldn't handle the guilt, and her sister now has a child with said ex-fiance. Let me tell you, the tea is absolutely piping hot with this one. We had a really, really good time in stream coming up with this doozy of a story. I already had a story in mind when I made The Sims, but it kind of expanded. And as we were building this house and the daycare, it gradually expanded and got better and better. And when it just starts coming together, you start making a house for them. That's gradually what we started to see. So you can see now we've already built the base of the daycare and the house. The daycare, I started adding all these decals over it, making it look kiddie friendly, because the idea that we had in mind was that Eve, she absolutely loves children and she would love to have children of her own. So a lot of the money that she does have, any money that essentially she makes from the daycare, she puts into the daycare. Like she puts into toys for the kids and doing it up and making it look nicer. Whereas her house then gets even more neglected. So the outside of her house is really quite sort of run down. I mean, she does a really good job of taking care of the garden. So she tries to do what she can with obviously the lack of money that she has. But essentially every penny that she has coming in, she puts in towards the daycare. So the daycare is probably the nicest looking of the two, but she tries her best, you know, with the house and with the things that she has. So right now I'm working on building a conservatory, which I actually used to have out the back of my house. So I thought this would be really nice. And Eve, I felt like a good pastime for her would really be to get into like flower arranging and gardening and things. So I thought, how nice would it be to have like a little sunroom out the back or conservatory where she can just go sit and read and have a cup of tea in the mornings and, you know, have this little conservatory. And obviously some of the glass panes were broken. I kind of imagined also that the kids that were in the daycare, maybe they'd thrown like balls or something or toys and they'd gone through and hit some of the glass. So that's why I put the glass on the side where the daycare is, which I was imagining some things there. So for the house, the reason why it is shaped like this is because it's a shotgun styled house. So I only learned this out on stream because people were informing me while I was building it. I was like, is there a particular style, like interior, that shotgun homes always follow? And turns out, actually, as I was informed, shotgun styled houses always have a hallway running all the way from the front door to the back door, because not only is that so that you could shoot a gun from the front of the house to the back of the house and the bullet would travel all the way to the end. That is technically what it would do. But also, technically it's there for airflow, because the air will flow throughout the house from the back to the front, and that is essentially the concept of the shotgun house. So technically shotgun styled houses, they're normally a bit skinnier in person or in real life than in The Sims, but obviously we're kind of limited because we are playing a game of squares. Well, when you're building, you're playing a game of squares. So there was only so much room that I could use. So I had to make the house a little bit wider than probably the reference photos were. So even then, I just about managed to fit in the 2 bedrooms, the conservatory, the bathroom, the living room, and the kitchen. So a lot of the houses, when we do future shotgun styled houses in this world, they're going to need to be this same size because you're just physically not going to fit it all in otherwise. Well, in saying that, if I did it maybe a different like layout of the floor, but I couldn't see any other way that I was going to fit in rooms on either side of the hallway if I designed it like this, you know, and if it was any skinnier, it wouldn't have fit. So that was the idea that I had. So you can see that I've laid out a bunch of furniture. By the way, none of this furniture stays. Normally what I do when I build and I'm getting an idea of the layout of the house, especially the interior, I place down a bunch of furniture that is just like temporary. It's just essentially to give me an idea of what the build is going to look like so that I have an idea when I go in where the furniture is going to go. So this furniture isn't going to stay. It's just, here's the bedroom, here's where a bed could go, here's the bathroom, here's where the toilet could go. You know, it's just basically giving me like a premise of it. I started on the kitchen first. You can see I placed down a lot of items as well. You can see me zooming in and out on the sink, because throughout the stream I ask chat, you know, should I go with this sink? Should I go with this sink? Should I go with this cooker? Should I go with this? So a lot of the time I try things out. We might even do a poll, which you obviously can't see, but we'll do a poll in chat and we'll vote for whether I should choose this or whether I should choose that. So sometimes you might see me place something, you might see me look at it for like a good minute or so. It's sometimes because me and chat are like deciding if, like, I just looked at that fridge for ages. We're deciding if that fridge is better or this fridge is better, you know? So, and obviously a lot of people in chat give me ideas of things to place. So I'll start working on like the kitchen, for example, and then leave the kitchen. And then someone will go and suggest, oh, maybe you should place some bills on the table in the kitchen. I'll be like, oh, that's such a good idea. And then I'll move back to the kitchen. So that'll be sometimes why we're like all over the place, because sometimes people are giving me ideas of things to place and where to put them. So honestly, I think with the house in general, I love the way that it turned out. I'm very impressed with myself. As I said, I don't build. So for it to even turn out the way that it did, I was just really happy. I love interior decorating in The Sims. So I feel like the interior decorating was definitely like my strong suit. The outside probably still could be better. I think I could have done a better job. Even now, I think if I went back and added more like foliage, sorry, my Discord just went off. I think if I went out and added more like foliage and things, I probably could get it to look better. But I think with my skill level, and honestly, the time that I had, the fact that this build literally took 2 streams, and each stream was at least 3 hours long. I think one of them was 4 hours long. And even decorate the interior of the daycare, I actually did that off camera. So if you guys are watching right now, when we eventually move on to the daycare, that was actually done all off camera. I didn't do it on stream, so it probably will flow the best because I was just recording myself building it off camera. I'm very happy with how the interior of the daycare came out. I love the interior of the house, I do, and it's really cozy and it's just very Eve fitting. But there's something about the interior of the daycare that I worked really, really hard on the daycare off camera, so I'm very happy with how it turned out. But we actually streamed today. We was working on the community lots in the world. We did a jazz bar and we also planned a restaurant as well. And I'm going to be building some other lots that are going to go in the French Quarter area of New Orleans, the way that I'm describing it. We're going to go ahead and build a few more community lots that are going to go on the other lots that I have in Willow Creek. So if you guys want to check that out, you can come and follow me on Twitch. Links are down below, or you can watch on YouTube as well on this channel. You might see me go live over here. So I stream on YouTube, Twitch, and TikTok, so you can watch literally anywhere. This stream, obviously, as I said, technically it's cut into 3 recording sessions. So the first part of me building this house and the daycare and decorating the kitchen was 1 recording session or 1 stream. And then now we're actually on to episode 2. So since then, we're actually on to stream 2. So since then, I've actually gone and been recommended a bunch of CC that you guys linked to me in the Discord to download and add onto the house. So you can see now I was trying out different doors. I didn't really like the idea of the doors because I think the door that we've already got is great. But we added these railings or bars that go on the outside of the windows. And I saw this a lot in these New Orleans homes. And a lot of people were telling me also in chat that they're there for safety as well, so people can't break in, because obviously in these areas the crime level is quite high. So they have these bars on the windows, which I think also just look quite pretty as well, but they are also there for a function to stop people from breaking in and obviously keep the area safe. So I added those on the daycare, I added those on the house to keep everybody safe and in there. Obviously conceptually, actually, I was going to say conceptually that wouldn't even happen in The Sims, but there are actually burglars in The Sims now. So maybe they will help, maybe. Although the house and the daycare don't have an alarm because it's really expensive to get a burglar alarm. So currently there is no burglar alarm. So if somebody does try to break in, then that's not going to be the best. Okay, so yeah, so basically what I did is I worked on the exterior of both of the lots first of all. So obviously you can see that I did this over 2 recording sessions. So I've gone and worked on the daycare exterior a little bit. And then I decided, okay, you know what, let me leave the daycare. I'll work on the interior of that separately and I'll just complete the house, which honestly was really fun because I got to add in a lot of personal, things to the house. And I got to make each room look like each sim, or not like the sim would actually live there basically. So the first room that I started working on was Brooke's room. And that is obviously the sister. So she is technically moving in and she is moving into the guest bedroom. So her bedroom is not really as she would decorate it, but it is essentially what she gets. So all of her stuff is everywhere. All of her belongings are everywhere. Her makeup is everywhere across the vanity and everything. And actually the crib that's in this guest bedroom is Eve's old crib that she bought preemptively thinking that she would get pregnant. And didn't obviously assume that she would have any issues getting pregnant, and she bought it at a flea market. So she went and thrifted it, I imagine, and she's obviously kept it all this time. So Brooke actually ends up having a little boy. His name is Brody, and I've already made him and everything, with the genetics of Silas. I also imagined that in Eve's head, she would have imagined that she would have had a girl. So she went and got the purple crib because obviously she thought she was going to have a little girl. So Brody now has a little purple crib. Not that I think that he would care at his age. So yeah, technically the crib is Eve's old crib that she kind of bought for herself. So I decorated Brooke's bedroom like it was a spare bedroom. And obviously I tried to use as much of my CC as possible as well. Also, speaking of CC, if you guys want to go ahead and download this lot and also the Sims that I've made, every single time I make some new Sims for the save file or any new builds, I'm going to be posting them on Patreon. So if you want to check them out, you can. I will post them on there and you can go and download them. I'll also include the CC to the Sims and to the build as well. It'll make it a lot easier for you guys to download. And then that way, if you guys do eventually download this save file at the end of me making it and completing it, I'm going to upload it. You guys can download that along with all the builds that I've, you know, added in from other creators. As long as you go and grab all of that CC, the save file should work perfectly fine for you. We was having a discussion about this in my stream because a lot of people were asking me to upload this save file, but technically I'm making this save file for myself, which obviously makes it really difficult to upload it to other people because there's going to be so much CC in it. There's physically no way of me linking to all of my 120 gigabytes of CC to you guys and all the mods that I'm going to be using. So I think the easiest thing to do is every build and every sim that I make goes up on Patreon with their CC that you guys can download. And then if you guys want, you're missing any other CC when you download the save file, you can always have a look through the creators that I use and their builds and download the CC that I used from them as well. I think that's probably going to be the easiest for you guys to download, the same as what I'm building. Oh, also, you see the artwork that I included in Brooke's room. A lot of the artwork I tried to pick out was not only picked by Eve, but also picked by Brooke, because Brooke secretly loves jazz music. Okay, so Brooke, although she's had a bit of a rough life so far, and she's definitely got into things that necessarily like she shouldn't have, or not that she shouldn't have, but she ended up getting into some things that she necessarily wouldn't have wanted for herself. And I think if she could have it her way, she would be a jazz singer. She absolutely loves jazz music. And I also think she's got a really good hidden singing talent. So the idea is that eventually when I play out the rotational series of this save and I get to play with the girls myself, I really wanted to see if eventually Brooke can pursue going into jazz or singing or something. There's actually, as I told you guys earlier, I placed a jazz bar in Willow Creek, and I think if she does eventually, you know, work up some confidence with her singing, she can actually go and sing at that jazz bar, which I think will be really fun. Now, I'm not sure if this voiceover is caught up with the video just yet. So right now for me, I'm working on Eve's room, and I'm hoping that I'm working on Eve's room for you guys as well in the video. But I essentially, for Eve's room, I went with really, really like cozy, kind of like old lady style, you know, like if I could say it. But again, I imagine a lot of the things she's picked up from like the flea market. They're all worn, used pieces of furniture. The furniture isn't necessarily matching, so like obviously the end tables are matching together because you've got two, but that's not matching to the desk, and the desk is not matching to the dresser, and the dresser doesn't match to the iron, you know, bed and everything. That's kind of the vibes that I went for, that nothing matches. She kind of just picked up anything to put it in the bedroom. And honestly, as long as she's got somewhere to sleep and it's cozy and looks nice to her, that's really all that matters. So that was kind of the concept for her bedroom. Her bedroom is honestly one of my favorite places in the entire house. I love the CC that I used in here. A lot of the CC that I used was by a creator called Sibulette, and their CC is honestly my absolute favorite. They've got such a good balance between Max's match CC that looks like it could fit in the game, but also looks higher quality and better than the actual items that you get in game. So it's like a really good balance, I think Sibulette has. So I normally use a lot of Sibulette throughout the entire build as well. So I think most of the creators that I used were a winged llama. I also used Sibulette. I also used Sixum CC. A lot of the Daycare, I used a lot of Sixum CC's Daycare set, and a lot of a winged llama. A winged llama does a lot of really good nostalgic items. So a lot of the like worn, rundown picture frames and the sort of broken, coffee tables and things like that. A lot of the stuff from them is by a winged llama. They do the nicest CC, honestly. I mean, all the CC creators that I use in here are my favorites. I won't lie. I used all my favorites for this, but a winged llama definitely is up there. Also, I don't know if you guys are at this point as well. You might see me looking at a ironing board. The ironing board is functional, but it is actually functional as a baby changing station. It's functional as a baby changing station. So it's not actually functional to be able to do any ironing on, but you can actually change the baby on it. And I thought that was perfect, considering that we have 0 room in the guest bedroom to be able to put a baby changing station. So I was like, oh, you know what? How perfect would it be if they can't change the baby in the bedroom because there's no room? So they just go and bring the baby out onto the ironing board in the living room and change the baby there. So Thought that was very appropriate. We're moving on to the bathroom. Again, not sure if you guys are keeping up with me, but I have just moved on to the bathroom visually for me. And I'm working on the bathroom looking really nostalgic as well. I went for that green colored theme in the bathroom. So the wallpaper is green because in the house that I'm living in currently, which is technically my nan's old house, when we moved in, this house was built in the 1950s, I believe, 1940s, no, 1930s. So my nan moved in here and she moved in here when she was a baby and she's literally grown up here. And she had the very classic 1970s bathroom. And I don't know if you guys have seen, it's not just UK houses, actually. I think it's even in other countries. But back then, they were always making bathrooms in one color, you know, and it would be really quite visually for me now looking at it, not a very nice looking color. So a lot of the time it would be like all pink or all purple or all green. My nan's bathroom in particular was green. And I was like, okay, you know what? I need to put in this really old green bathroom because the concept that I had for this house was actually something that Eve bought and she got cheap because, you know, she was no longer with her, she was no longer with her partner. She was no longer with her fiance and she didn't have the money to be able to afford the house or apartment or whatever that they were sharing previously. So she went and bought this house because it was the only thing that she could buy. But obviously it was this, you know, house that was run down and maybe, you know, an older person had lived there previously and maybe they passed away or something, and that was why the house was going so cheap on the market, which is essentially why she bought it and took it on. And a lot of the furniture in here is broken or run down. It's not necessarily things that Eve has even bought. It was things that were here before she moved in, like the kitchen appliances, or in fact, the kitchen appliances, she did upgrade the fridge. So the fridge is new, but the bathroom, I kind of imagine that the bathroom was like already fitted in there. Okay, so now, as long as you are caught up with where I am, we are moving on to the interior of the daycare. So the interior of the daycare is the one thing that nobody else has seen but me because I built it off screen. So I'm very proud of the daycare, I must admit. I went in, again, I had some ideas of what I wanted it to look like. Honestly, I didn't have any references of daycares in like the inside of them because I knew that I wanted this daycare to be kind of run down. And if you look up rundown daycares, you don't really find anything on the internet for that. I'm guessing normally rundown daycares don't do very well. That's my guess. So I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I knew what I needed. I knew I needed like a little office area when you first come into the daycare where obviously whoever the attendant, not necessarily the attendant, but Eve when she's working, if she needs to like sign the kids in, she'll go over there to the computer to do all of that stuff. So that was kind of the idea that I had for that. I knew I needed a bathroom. So obviously I put that at the back. I gave it just one little window. And currently you can see that the interior of the daycare looks really nice. Gradually, as I'm going through, I was like, no, actually this daycare looks too nice. I'm probably going to need to change it. So you'll see eventually by the end of this build, the floor has scuffs on it. The wallpaper changes and the wallpaper's all sort of peeling off in certain places because I was thinking, you know, it definitely still needs to look more run down than what it did. That's kind of the whole concept that I wanted to do for this neighborhood, and I love the way that it looks. And also, I don't want anyone to take offense to me saying that. I mean that in the best way possible. I just mean, you know, in places in real life, some of them are run down, you know, and I think also those places have a lot of character, probably if not more character than, you know, the really sort of clean, pristine areas. I feel like they're so fake looking, you know, like the people living there probably have so much drama, you know, like I think this is how the concept of like TV shows and things, when you watch like Desperate Housewives, and although everything looks perfect from the outside, they have the perfect home, they have everything perfect, their house is clean, you know, their street, they must love their neighbors, they must love their, you know, their kids and their husband, and it turns out on the inside it's not actually like that. So this obviously area is based around the fact that there's obviously loads of like intertwined stories going on with the neighbors and the family members in the houses, but regardless, they're all trying their best. They're all just trying to get by. You know, Eve just wants to be the best daycare owner that she can be for kids. She just wants to be there for the kids in the neighborhood. And a lot of the time as well, The reason why the daycare is quite run down and she's not had the chance to put loads of money in to upgrade it is because sometimes the the kids' parents can't necessarily pay her. Like, they might not even have the money to be able to pay for the daycare. So sometimes she'll have, like hardly any income for the day. And it kind of makes sense as the reason that the daycare's, not so nice looking. Or not even not so nice looking. Honestly, I think it looks really sweet. I just think, it's not so, like, all the furniture's not so new, and I just think it just gives it character. I just think I fell in love with it when I was building it, and I love it. I can't wait to play in it. I think it's going to be really, really fun. So I was going through, I use a lot of CC in the daycare as well. But I also did use a lot of like in-game items. I tried to incorporate some in-game items, some CC. So this build, again, will be very CC heavy if you want to download it. But there was lots of things that I tried to find, things in the Sims, like actually in in-game that would fit, but I didn't really have much of a choice, to be honest. So for like example, those curtains that I use in the daycare, those are all in-game items. Like, if I didn't need to use a piece of CC, I didn't. But if I didn't have an equivalent item in game, then I would use the piece of CC. And a lot of the CC that I've got is very run down as well, so I thought it would work. So, okay, right, what you can see now, I got midway through and I had a design in place that I really love the look of for the daycare. And then I realized I didn't have enough beds, because not only was I going to be having infants stay in the daycare, I was also going to be having toddlers stay. And I haven't even got to the point really where I was going to consider if I was going to have any kids stay in the daycare or not. So I realized that, one, I needed more cribs for the infants, but two, that I'm going to need some toddler beds. Okay, I'm going to need some beds for infants. So I went and found some beds. These actually, the beds end up changing out, and I go for like a little sleep sack type of thing instead, like basically what the kids can use to like sleep over at people's houses with. I use those little sleeping bags instead. And I also turned the little corner area into a reading nook, because I thought it'd be really sweet if Eve could go and read the kids to sleep. And when they go for their little afternoon nap time, that they go and, sleep and have their little afternoon nap time. I just thought it was so cute. Honestly, I'm just really excited to play in the lot now. So I'm going to go and stop blabbing at you guys. But I hope you enjoyed the rest of the build. I hope you guys like how it turned out. And of course, if you want to download it, I'll include the link in the description so you guys can go ahead and download that for yourselves. It'll include all the CC. And yeah, I love you guys. I will speak to you in the next one. Bye, everyone.